In this video, I'm going to show you how to do local SEO step by step. And I'm Nathan Gotch, the founder of Gotch SEO and Rankability, and I've led hundreds of successful SEO campaigns for over a decade. So let's just get right into it. So we're gonna be focusing on junk removal Austin. And so I picked a random business that was ranking on page 4. But before we talk about that, let's take a look at what we're up against. So go ahead and you can go into SEMrush or Ahrefs or whatever tool you want to use, and you can start to get a rough idea of what you're up against. Now, right away, I saw some, let's call them alarming issues when it comes to this particular keyword, especially if you're a new business that's trying to rank for this particular keyword, which is pretty competitive for the local level. Okay, so according to SEMrush, putting the domain in there, it claims we can get into, let's say, between 11 and 30 if we do a good job. I actually tend to agree with that based on what you're going to be seeing here in a second about this domain. Now, a couple things I want to bring your attention to. So let's start by looking at Google search results. Okay, so if we look at just purely trying to rank organically, we're going to be up against a few challenges. All right, so number one, where is the organic rankings? And this is the biggest problem in a lot of local SERPs right now is, we're dealing with a lot of advertising. And so this block up here are local service ads. So ideally, if I was starting, I can only approach this from the perspective that I'm starting a junk removal business. Okay, if I was starting a junk removal business today in Austin, first thing I would do is investigate getting into local service ads. That just makes logical sense because it is directly above the fold. Google is prioritizing it. Therefore, that's a good place to start. And at the end of the day, the objective of doing digital marketing as a whole is to drive leads. So you should be doing everything in your power to occupy as much real estate as possible, especially in Google, which is the most popular website on the internet. Okay, so first thing I would do is figure out local service ads. Then looking at the next layer we have here is the traditional search ads. Okay, once again, I would also be investigating how we can advertise in Google ads. And I'll be showing an alternative strategy to this if the budget is super tight. But if you have a little bit of budget to deploy, I would at least test these two things. So local service ads and traditional search ads. Okay, then we're gonna get into the organic. Now, one thing I want to bring your attention to here, and I've shown this through so many videos over the last many months on my channel, and I just keep showing it over and over, improving this concept over and over and over. And it's keyword-rich business names work. They just work in the local pack. So when we were looking at the local pack, it's nearly impossible in a lot of local SERPs to get significant traction without having a keyword-rich business name these days. They are everywhere, and that's because they work. Okay, so when we go ahead, we can look at some of the other ones that are not in the top 3, but you're very rarely going to find ranking results that don't have either the location in them or at least have the primary service offering. So I'll give you an example here. So we'll just search Austin, okay? And when we look at the ranking results, well, first of all, the top 3 all have Austin in them, okay? So that's big, right? So then we're gonna go down here. We've got another one down here and another one. So not as many as you might imagine, but of course we should be looking at the ones that are performing best, and the ones that are performing best do this. Now, the other thing to consider too is it's not always just about getting the city name in there, also getting the service in there. Okay, so when we look at this, there is not going to probably be a single result here that doesn't have junk in it. Like as far as like that one key word, every single ranking result here, at least on the first page of Google business profiles, has junk in it. Okay, now we'll see junk removal. We'll extend that phrase out. And once again, first one does have junk removal. These two do not. And then, you can see there's a bunch that do. Okay, so if you don't have at least one of these, you're pretty much going to lose. I mean, it's nearly impossible to win if you don't have the one part of the phrase in your business name. Okay, so this is very, very important. And in fact, getting reviews is huge. Like reviews is probably the second biggest variable at this point. But like if we go in order of the most important variables in the local pack, number 1 is your location. Okay, so where you're actually located, your address is the biggest variable, because if you're not in the core of the city that you're going after, you're like not in that, like right in the center of that city, it's going to be very, very hard to overcome that. Okay, so that's number one. You have to get that squared away. If you want to rank in Austin, get an address in Austin. If you want to rank in a different city, get an address in that city. Okay, then from there, we need to think about our business name. So using a generic business name is basically a death wish at this point in the local pack. So if you use a generic business name, you're really, really going to struggle unless you have some unique capability to acquire thousands and thousands of reviews. If you have that ability, then you might be able to overcome it. But I wouldn't try that, because that's like you're taking the most difficult path. So first two things I would try to get squared away. Number one, get the location right. Number two, get a keyword rich business name. And if your business is not keyword rich in nature, then I would get a DBA, a doing business as. That's just a legal structure in the United States. It's going to be different, in the different countries that you might be competing in. But in the case of the United States, you would get a DBA. Okay. And that basically, I don't want to say it makes you 100% safe from penalization in the local pack, but it certainly helps because you have documentation, it's with the state. So there's a lot of things there that can certainly protect you in that regard. Okay. Now, those are the first two parts is getting location right, getting the business name right. And then number three is you need to be really, really deliberate about getting reviews. So if we look at the top three here, if we took the average, we're looking at well over 500 reviews on average with the top three results. That means the only way that you're going to be able to beat these guys is you have to do the two things I mentioned, and you have to get nearly 500 reviews to at least be on the playing field to compete with them. Now, keep in mind, just hitting 500 reviews does not guarantee you're going to beat them, because they're acquiring reviews at the same time. So you actually need to be in a surplus. You need to be acquiring more reviews at a higher speed to be able to catch them. If you're just acquiring at the same speed they are, you're never going to catch them. So you have to literally outpace them. And so, all of this that I'm showing you here, this is not to scare you, but this is just to bring some reality to these SERPs. And you have to be realistic about your chances. And, if you're a brand new junk removal company in Austin and are like saying you want to go after like Austin as the city, I would be very careful, because you are dealing with some serious competition for so many reasons, not just, Google competing against you essentially with Google ads, but also local pack. Okay. Now we'll get into the organic here, but keep in mind at this point, we can go ahead and just count this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So technically, even if you were ranking number one in the traditional organic, you would actually be number 8. And I didn't even consider people also ask. Okay, so if we consider this maybe one result, that would push that to number 8. So really, Junk Luggers of Austin here is really like number 9 in the search results. And they're ranking number 1 in traditional. So this is just something you have to be aware of, because the further you get pushed down the page, the worse your CTR is going to be. And that means the less organic traffic you're going to be getting. So you have to consider that. And yes, it is true that organically, the number one spot on average gets about 30% CTR. But on the local level, that's not necessarily true. On national level, that might be true. But on the local level, that is not the case at all. And I don't think there's been any reliable study that's been able to prove the CTR of the number one organic result only in local SERPs. So, but I can tell you it's certainly going to be low. So based on all of this, you have a few options. Number one is the only way that I would try to go after this SERP is if I had a keyword rich domain. I just wouldn't even try it. If I didn't have a keyword rich domain, it would just be a losing battle. And the alternative strategy, if I'm not going to, do that, then I would go after a surrounding city in Austin. So I wouldn't go for a direct hit in Austin because it's too competitive. So I'd start to look here at some surrounding cities that maybe we could attack. Okay, some cities that have some decent volume that we could certainly go after, and we could just expand out a little bit and start to see these other cities that maybe we could certainly go after. Okay, so that's the way that you can attack this, is start to chip away at the smaller cities. So you start kind of, on the outer layers here, and then just slowly work your way in. So maybe Round Rock might be one you'd want to go after that maybe be a little bit easier than going after Austin, for example. All right, so before you ever begin any SEO, you should always first focus on conversion rate optimization, or CRO, because at the end of the day, you can get traffic to your website, but if it doesn't convert, that's going to cause a few problems. Number one, first of all, it's going to be a waste of time and effort, because the point of doing SEO is to make more money in your business. Number two is it actually can indirectly affect your SEO performance. For example, if visitors are landing on your page and they're bouncing off, or they're not visiting a second page, or they're not completing a form, or they're not calling, they're not doing something positive on the site, Google Chrome is tracking all of this data, and it's going to relay that data back to Google. So Google has this has actually been confirmed that Google uses Google Chrome to get intel so that it can form Google search. So you need to make sure that positive things are happening on your website. When I talk about positive things, that means the most positive thing that can happen is actually a conversion. So getting someone to fill out a form, call your phone number, those are most important. But some of the kind of less important, but still certainly help, is scrolling, is dwell time, how long they actually stay on the site, if they're clicking on second pages, all those things. Those are all positive user signals, and we want to have that. Now, the good news, you can use something like MouseFlow, for example, which is what I use, and you can install this on your website, and you can see how users are interacting with your website. It's simple as that. You'll have the data to really know, and then you can make some informed decisions, okay? So with that said, when I look at the site, it's not bad. It's really not bad at all, but just some slight modifications to improve the CRO, okay? So the number one thing is, I talk about this a lot, and I for many months here, I've been showing this, which is contrast. It's a very simple concept, but it's a very common issue on a lot of these sites because they're usually using templated types of designs, okay? So what we see here is clearly the theme here is orange. Nothing wrong with that. It's good to have kind of one set color or a couple of colors for your brand. But what you want to do is, with your CTAs, you want to have contrast. So you don't want your call to action button to match your headings. That actually causes a contrast issue. So you want your CTAs to be a different color. So very small thing that you can fix, but can help a lot. Okay, now we're gonna go down here. Another thing is the font I noticed is, got this kind of gray font. This is like UX 101, is you never really want to use gray font on a website because it's just hard to read. Overall, I don't think this site is bad. I think just some, modifying the colors a little bit. I would put a phone number above the fold. Just to increase the options for communication. But aside from that, pretty solid. Now, there's some more structural issues, kind of like under the hood related things that I'm going to show here in a second. But for the most part, this is pretty solid. Okay, so what I did is ran a screaming frog crawl and then exported those results to a Google Sheet. And that way I can kind of get a broad analysis of what we're working with here. So I see a couple of things right away that certainly can be improved. Now, one of the things I noticed right away is when I did the export, which was kind of an old school strategy here, is using lots and lots of meta keywords. So basically stuffing every page with these meta keywords, which is super, super old school. And I would just go ahead and delete all of the meta keywords from these pages. So we can go ahead and just pick any of these random ones here, and we'll just open it up. And if you use the detailed Chrome extension, you can probably see these pop up, which you'll see here in the keyword section. These are all meta keywords, and these don't help with ranking, especially in the manner that they're being used. But regardless, they don't help with ranking, and more than likely, this might actually be a negative signal more than anything. So I would just straight up eliminate these altogether, and they're causing so many problems right now, just from the respect that these all are different keywords and they're all being targeted on every single page. And in general, it's really, when we build out a page, we want it to be hyper focused on that one keyword, that one phrase. So this is going to cause a lot more problems. So I won't belabor the point, but just get rid of them completely. Okay, so I'm going to hide this column because it's making it unwieldy to analyze here. But what we want to see is, I'm looking at a few things, and one of the things is right away, we know that the domain has junk removal in it. In the root domain, junk removal is there. So you could theoretically do not include junk removal in the URL itself because it's already in the root domain. But for example, we're going to take one of these and let's take place set removal. Okay, so this is a good one here. So place set removal, and This is a keyword that would be really, really useful if it was hyper-focused for the location that they're going after. But unfortunately, the way this is built, it's not actually targeting Austin. So there is Texas in here, but that's too broad for the targeting that we're going after. And that's one thing I noticed about this website is the targeting is way too broad and not specific enough. So when we look at the service areas, they're doing it based on county. And unfortunately, Google, when you search something, Google does not deliver results based on the county level. So if I search place set removal near me, it's basically going to show me St. Louis results. Okay, so right here, St. Louis, actually it's going to show town and country, which is even more specific, but you're seeing results that are very, very close to, where I'm located. All right, so you're not going to see like St. Louis County type of results. You're not going to see St. Charles County. You're going to see specific to the city that I live in. So you should almost never do county targeting. There's only some rare exceptions, like if you're targeting like fire protection in a particular county and there's certain county codes that you have to follow, then that makes sense. But I'd say like 99% of scenarios, you need to drill down to the city level. So when we look at this, the way that we would rebuild this page is instead of just place set removal, this would be place set removal Austin. Okay, we would make sure we include the kind of core offering here and then the location that we're going after. And then from there, once we've restructured all the URLs, we want to go through and optimize these pages specifically for Austin as well. So in the title, we would have place set removal in Austin, okay? We would say place set removal in Austin in the meta description. We would also change this. Okay, so we would go in here and it would basically look more like this, place set removal, and I would change it to something like in Austin, just like that, okay? So that way, now we've got the actual keyword in the H1, and I'd probably put it here in this sub, in the sub headline too, but in a paragraph tag, okay? Now from here, we need to look at this page itself, which I can tell within about 1 second that this is AI content. It's just really obvious. So because of the way it's written, in the realm of family fun, few things evoke the image of joyous laughter and boundless energy. I mean, it's just so AI written. It's so obvious. So just for fun, I took one of the random pages, threw it through originality.ai. To no surprise, it comes back as 100% AI, okay? And these tools are pretty accurate for the most part, especially identifying like this really simple AI content. It's pretty obvious. So essentially, if I did a crawl on this site, and you can use originality.ai to do a crawl on this on the whole site, and I'll find that probably 100% of the pages on this site are AI written. And I can just tell even based on the way a lot of these, kind of headlines and titles are written, it looks like it's AI. So first step is to make the content original and actually high quality. And this is just not going to do it. I mean, you can use AI to certainly give you something to work with, but overall, this is just clearly designed just to rank in Google. And ironically is it won't rank in Google because it is so obviously AI written. Okay. So Google probably can identify really low grade AI content like this. It probably can identify when you use a human editor and you have some advanced tactics, but for the most part, if it's really basic like this, Google can probably identify it, okay? So with that in mind, we need to go through every single page and localize them to the city that we're going after. And when we start to look at this, I'll just go and do a quick search of Austin. Like if Austin's the main city we're trying to attack, there's almost no topic support for Austin at all. We've got basically 3 pages that target Austin, and all the others are super generic, not city focused, or they just have like Texas in them, right? Or Round Rock, for example. So it looks like there's an attempt to kind of rank in these a lot of secondary cities, which I don't think is a bad strategy. It's definitely a good idea. But we first need to build a lot of support for Austin. Once we build support for Austin, then we can start to attack these secondary cities. And we should attack those secondary cities with the same level of aggression. Okay, so just a lot of stuff to improve here. I basically need to rebuild the whole sitemap. So for example, I would just look at something like carpet removal and then just change that to carpet removal Austin, and then I would re-optimize that page. And I would just repeat that for every single core service offering page. And along those lines, Once I've fixed all those, then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna look at the existing keywords and see what we find. Okay, so once searching in Austin, we can see there's actually quantifiable volume associated with some of these keywords. So we have mattress removal, which is separate intent. We have junk removal South Austin. Okay, so that actually is searched, and it looks like they're ranking in the local pack for this, but they're not ranking organically. So having a dedicated page specifically for South Austin, that might be something worth considering. Okay. And trash removal in Austin, if that's something they offer, and keep going down here and looking for keywords that have different intent. So once again, mattress removal, furniture removal, this would require a dedicated page for that specifically, and you get the point. So if it has different intent, give it a different page, okay? And another one here, shed removal, all right, same thing. Now, what you're gonna do as well is once you've cleaned your house up, right? You got all your stuff squared away for Austin, then what you want to do is you want to take this to the next level. So instead of just using AI content just out of the gate, what you should do is use rankability and go in here and you're going to actually use the NLP keywords to create a highly relevant page. And this is what you should do for every single page that is keyword targeted. You should build it with NLP in mind. So what you're looking at here is junk removal Austin, and this is specifically the page that we're looking at, or the website that we're looking at. And it's honestly not scoring too poorly. I mean, it's a 45, but overall, it's just missing a lot of core topics in here. So what I would do is just to do a much better draft out of the gate, we can go ahead and just copy these keywords, and we're gonna go ahead and use ChatGPT to help us formulate a first draft. Okay, you'll see what I did here is just create an SEO content outline for junk removal Austin using these NLP keywords, which I pulled directly from Rankability. And then what it's gonna do is it's gonna create a nice little outline for us to work from. Now, this is the process you should do for every keyword targeted page. So for example, I showed, playset removal in Austin. I would do the same exact thing for this page and this keyword phrase as well, okay? So we're gonna go back here and we can go ahead and just we'll copy this outline here, and then we can run it back through Rankability and we'll see how well it's optimized just with the outline alone, okay? Now from here, you don't have to use AI content to create this, but the objective here is to build out a really highly relevant outline that we know is going to actually help us rank, okay? So you can see that, ChatGPT did a really good job of integrating all of the important NLP phrases into the outline, okay? Now from here, your options are pretty simple. Number one is if you're a subject matter expert and you have decent copywriting skills, you could of course write this yourself. That's the hardest option. Number two, which is my second favorite option, is hiring a copywriter to write this content for you based on this outline. That's the second best option. Then number three, if you're really on a tight budget, then you could certainly use ChatGPT to give you that first draft. So in this case, if you want to use a writer, you just go up to share and you would enable this share link here and you'd copy this, and then you could hand this over to a writer and they'll be able to go into the content optimizer and actually write this content for you in the optimizer. That's the key. Make sure you tell your writer to actually, put the content in this actual editor. So that way it's already optimized out of the gate, which helps eliminate a lot of work right out of the gate. Okay. So with that said though, let's assume you're going to use AI content. So what we do here is we just go right back to ChatGPT and we need to collect the proper word count. Okay. So we're looking between 500 to 1500 words. And we're gonna have ChatGPT create that first draft. Okay, so once this draft is done, we can go ahead and just copy this. And once again, this is a first draft and you have to treat it like this. This is just a simple first draft that we're gonna do. We're gonna copy this over and we're just gonna see how it did, okay? We're gonna paste it over and see how it performed, all right? Simple as that. And right out of the gate, it did really, really well. So it's already super optimized. It's super relevant, way better than the previous one. But this is just the start. Okay, you just want to start here. Now I want to take this to the next level. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the website and we're going to go to the About page. All right, and I'm actually going to copy this. I'm going to copy all this stuff that's related to them. And I'm going to go ahead and feed this into ChatGPT to make this content even better. Because remember, this is a commercial keyword. So it has commercial intent. We know this is a highly relevant piece of content, but we need to bring some personalization into it, some uniqueness into it. So we want it to be more relevant to this business. So this is where the next step comes in. Okay, so now you'll notice what I did here is I said write a second draft, but what I did is I copied all the details from their About page and I copied a few testimonials and I fed that back into ChatGPT to create a second draft. So you're going to see the difference here is going to be very significant. Now we can start to look at this. We can start to see there's actually some personalization going on here. We can see the brand is now included in there, and we can see there's things that are very specific to what they offer, okay? As a result, this is going to be very, very unique specifically to them, as opposed to being the same generic content that anyone else can use when writing AI content, okay? So we're going to go ahead and copy this now that it's done. And it's also added the testimonials that I've included. So I just included 3 in there. And now from here, it's really starting to finish it out. And now that it's done, we'll go ahead and copy this and we'll paste it back over into Rankability. And we'll go ahead and clear it out completely. And let's see just how it did out of the gate, okay? So right away, it's already optimal. Just from there, it's already optimal. And I don't recommend stopping here. Remember, this is just a second draft. Now what I recommend doing is if you're not a writer, you don't feel comfortable doing that, I would just go to Fiverr and look at AI content writers, AI editors. Okay, so you can go to Fiverr, and I've tested a bunch of these, and just go to like, Carrie here, who I've used many times. Looks like she's pretty busy. But she's an example of someone who can actually go through your AI written content and make it very unique, very personable, and much more high quality. And as a result, you're going to look way better than anyone who's just kind of pumping out generic content from ChatGPT or any other large language model. Okay. So this is what we're hoping to do here is basically once that's done, that basically puts it as a third draft of AI content. Now from there, you're in the top 1% of AI content quality because most people just slap it on their site. So from there, you're probably going to be pretty safe as far as mitigating risk. And now what you do is you just need to go through the same exact process for every single keyword targeted page on your website. So in this case, this would go on the home page, and we'd of course make it designed well to properly fulfill the intent. And then I would go, like I mentioned, through all of these. So like this one here, or the one that was specifically about playground sets, we would go and we would redo that one as well. And we'd just go one by one and start to chip away at these. And this is how you improve performance, okay? And you focus on just one location at a time. So if it's gonna be Austin, really hit Austin to the fullest extent. And once you've hit Austin to the fullest extent, then start to narrow down to some of these smaller locations. So like, for example, you might want to go after Lake Travis. Okay, so Lake Travis in this scenario, once again, this is not really optimized super well. If we're going after Lake Travis, we would want to have Lake Travis junk removal in the title tag. We want to have it specifically in the meta description, and we'd want to have it in the H1 tag. So I won't belabor the point, but this is like the basics. The NLP is how you actually formulate that content. Now, one thing you can do too, which is a little trick here, is you can use the NLP to actually build out highly relevant pages that will support this primary keyword. So in the case of junk removal Austin, look at the NLP to see if there's opportunity to create secondary supporting assets. Now, of course, you can just use the keywords, right? You go to the existing keywords, you can look at the keyword gap. So you can actually run a keyword gap with SEMrush. I'll just show you real quickly. So you run a keyword gap with SEMrush, and you can identify all of the keywords that your competitors are ranking for that you are not ranking for, okay? And it's a gap, so you need to fill this gap as fast as possible. So like right here, hot tub removal, that's a perfect keyword. Hot tub removal Austin. I would create a dedicated page specifically for that, knowing that there actually is search volume. And of course, you'd have to drill down to the local level. It's not going to be 3,600 a month. It's going to be much less. But we know there is search volume associated with it. So we would just localize that keyword, okay? So with that said, you can use the NLP technology to do the same thing. So looking at this, I start to look for opportunities. So Round Rock, okay, I know I need to have junk removal Round Rock as a dedicated page. I know I need to have Cedar Park as a dedicated page for junk removal. Keep going on. Construction debris. So construction debris Austin, that should be a dedicated page, okay? And you get the point. Appliance removal Austin, yard debris Austin. You build out all of these pages, okay? And those all, because of the NLP, which is being pulled from your competitors, you'll know that it's highly relevant to Austin. And funny enough, the one I just mentioned, hot tub removal, technically didn't even need to use SEMrush to identify these opportunities because you're using the NLP to identify these opportunities. So just from this one analysis, you could build out at least 10 to maybe 15 supporting assets for that one page. And you could actually just double down on this. So you could take, for example, mattress disposal. You could go back into the content optimizer and run mattress disposal Austin and then see the NLP keywords that pop up because of that. And you just keep kind of going deeper into that rabbit hole. And as a result, you're going to build a highly relevant website that Google is just going to eat up. You're giving it the inputs that it really wants. Okay, so this is what we do with every campaign. We make our sites the most relevant that it can possibly be. And I'll just give you some perspective on this. Okay, this is a local, I'll show you real quickly here. This is a local campaign, okay? This is a local campaign, and this is exactly what we did. Just keep building relevance, and you just keep building more of a presence, okay? And this is not a big niche at all. This is a very small local niche, and we're building traffic, like serious traffic growth here. And that's because we just keep making the site more relevant. We keep capturing more keywords. We keep attacking these NLP concepts. And once again, just to clarify on this, these are not keywords that are just randomly generated by a large language model like ChatGPT. These keywords are being directly pulled from your competitors. So you know for a fact that they are good to target because they're actually pulled from the top ranking competitors. So you're just emulating the relevance that they're already doing. Okay, so this is basically all that you need to do is just rinse and repeat this process for all of your most important pages, most important keywords. And like I said, there's so much work to do to optimize, improve, and ultimately upgrade a lot of these pages. Okay. Now from there, once you've done all that, there's basically 2 more steps. The next step is looking at the local level, which I already showed here, which is looking at the local pack. We know that we're competing against some pretty hard stuff. So the good news is that they're actually doing really well. 179 Google reviews is great. That's really, really good. But the problem is probably the fact that their category here is waste management service. Okay, so if I was in their position, honestly, I would test changing this to Four Hands Junk Removal Austin. I would put Austin in the business name, and I might get a DBA, but I might not. I might test it without one. But if you want to be, on the safe side, you could certainly get that, but I would just slap Austin onto this business name. And then I would change waste management to junk removal. So if we go and look at junk removal Austin, once again, we'll see that of the top 3, this one is garbage collection, but these other 2 are junk removal. And one of these is, there is waste management in there too, but it looks like there's a lot of inconsistency in category selection, but I'm more concerned about the top 3. So looking at the top 3, it's pretty clear that junk removal seems to be like a solid option. So I'd probably just change it to junk removal. Okay. And that category switch might certainly help. Okay. And that's basically it. And just keep acquiring reviews at a pretty high rate. But I think honestly, just adding Austin to the business name, continuing the review collection, and then also changing the category, that could definitely give a nice lift. Obviously, it's not going to get you your top 3, but it certainly could lift you at least 5 to 6 spots. Just doing that. Now, the final piece of this is you have to get backlinks. Okay, when I show the example here, we'll look at the one we're focusing on here. We'll see that there's a serious backlink deficit. So the domain authority score is only a 7. There's only about 9 backlinks in total. This is just not enough. You're going to need way more backlinks than this. So there has to be a concentrated effort to get backlinks every single month. So the first thing you want to do is run a backlink analysis and really a backlink gap. So I'll show you, go ahead and click on this just so you can see. But this is using the same exact domains that I use for the keyword gap, but just using it for the backlink gap, okay? And we're looking at the opportunities that the competitors have that their website does not, okay? And some of these are gonna be good, some of them are not gonna be so good. But the first thing I would honestly do in a scenario like this is, when we look at the backlink gap, a lot of these are like directory sites. So for that reason, I would honestly just run a citation building campaign. And there's so many ways you can do this these days, and it does not require a whole lot of effort. Like don't waste your time building out citations yourself. I would honestly just go, like, here are a few options. Okay, I personally use Logenix. So I go into Logenix, I go to citation building, and I just order, the biggest one that I can just to build citations. Okay, this gives you a nice base layer for your link profile. Okay, that would be the first thing I would do. Second thing I would do is I'd probably run a press release just to, kind of get more coverage in my link profile to build more strength there, I would certainly do that. Okay. And press releases, be really careful. Just use your branded your branded anchor text. Don't use keyword rich anchor text, use branded anchor text, but this can help diversify the link profile further. We're just trying to build a nice base layer of links, because when you're starting from zero, that's really what you need. Second thing I would do is there's actually a really good service from the Hoff. Okay. And it's called Lock My Brand. And if you go over here, they'll go and they'll just secure all your social media profiles. So, it looks like they already got a few social media profiles here. They've got Facebook and Instagram, but I would actually go and secure the remaining ones. So that way I've got those all occupied. Okay. Once again, only a small percentage of those are actually going to get indexed, but it's a way to ultimately diversify the anchor text and build a nice base layer that really any brand should have. Okay, you should have these properties. Now from there, we're going to start to get into the more advanced level link building. Now at this point with the very fresh link profile, you're going to start to do some outreach, and you're going to have to find websites where you see a lot of relevance. So just looking at the domains themselves, you can start to see like, okay, what are some sites that look like, they're kind of legit in the local area. So I'm really focused on localized links. So you can just go ahead and filter this, and I might just filter even just by purely Austin and see if there's any, Austin specific links that we don't have. And it looks like there is. So it looks like we've got at least 7 opportunities to get links on Austin domains. So this would be my focus. These 7 would be my targets. And once I've nailed those, then I'm going to go into the next level. All right. Now, most obvious one is just going into the Austin. We'll look at Austin plus donations, or we can do sponsors like this, actually, Austin sponsors. And we're going to start to look to see if we can get on any of these lists. And usually I'll just make a huge list of all of these. And a lot of these are not going to be relevant. Okay. And some of them may not be, necessarily brand fits or whatever, but the point is like find the ones that, you are okay as your brand being associated with. And most importantly, find the ones that actually have links. Okay, so looking at this, it looks like Keep Austin Beautiful. They do have outbound links. This would go to my prospecting list, and I would send an outreach email. This one here looks like they also have outbound links. Another perfect one for the rodeo. Absolutely would go after that one, and you get the point. So just keep going one by one and identifying the ones that have outbound links. Okay, and this is a really, really good way to get super relevant localized links. Now, that's the first step. I would also join the Austin Chamber of Commerce and make sure you have a listing in here. Okay, very important. A lot of these directories are public directories, and a lot of the links do get indexed in Google. So I would absolutely pay whatever it is to get into the chamber, just so you can build that localized relevance. All right. Then from there, any news coverage you can get in the local area as far as Austin will also be extremely beneficial. So I'll just give you an example. Like I went on the local news for in St. Louis, and you can see here I went on Show Me St. Louis, and I talked about my book. And this gave me a really, really strong backlink. It was like a really strong 70 authority score or something. And it was actually a followed link. So these links, I cannot stress, are so, so important. And if you have to pay to get on these shows, I would definitely do it. Make your site so much stronger. So do that. And then the final piece of this is continuing to look at these other opportunities and continue to bridge that gap with the competitors. And to take it to the next level, I would consider investing in a service like Search Intelligence. So they'll actually help you build out a PR campaign using a bunch of different tactics. And really the point here is that they're going to help you get really strong backlinks that your competitors are not going to be able to get, just straight up, unless they understand how to do digital PR, which most of them will not be able to do that. So they're going to take, the guesswork out of it, and they're just going to do all this for you. And they have, tons and tons of case studies of doing this. So they're really, really good. And I highly recommend getting in touch with them. Once you have the budget to be able to do it, they're certainly not, they're not cheap, but that's because they do great work. And this is how you can take, your authority your link authority and ultimately your backlink profile to the next level. So I'll have a link below this video to check them out. Hey, so I hope that was helpful. And if you liked the video, please like it and subscribe because I have a lot of cool new SEO training videos coming very soon. Thank you so much for watching.